is right. Another Thursday night football here and the start to week number 8 of the NFL. And we have a good game that has turned into I don't know what this is going to be kind of game. A little bit weird because a lot of Green Bay Packers out and, of course, wide receivers. But you're tuned in to WinDailySports.com, all sponsored by the Sharp app. Go to sharp.link and you can use that link to get to the Google Play Store, Apple App Store, just any of the ways to download the Sharp app. And all of their plays are free today, by the way. So if you're trying to find an NFL bet, maybe something for college, go Pirates tonight. But you can find all of the free bets over on the Sharp app today, sharp.link, all the ways you can download the Sharp app. Again, Google Play Store, Apple App Store. And also still a 1-week free trial. And that free trial includes the optimizer, which you can use tonight. You can use for Sunday. WDS.1/live week. That'll take you straight to the sign up page for the 1-week free trial. Also, link for that is in the description below. We are a very not biased, very unbiased show here. There is no bias towards the Green Bay Packers whatsoever on the show today. None. Zero. With that in mind, Green Bay Packers fan Stoweby, what do you think about the game tonight?
Oh man, my heart and my head are. I want to think that Green Bay can eke it out, and they do have a little bit of historical precedence for being able to win games like this with wide receivers out. Last year, Week 4, it was the Falcons, so it wasn't a 7-0 team. But they were able to pull it out. Tonyan caught 3 touchdowns, caught 6 of 6 targets, and that's why everybody knows who Robert Tonyan is. So there is a little bit of precedent there for it. But the more I think about it, I mean, they are outmatched.
Right. And this has happened before. Like, we've seen teams without an entire position group. And sometimes it becomes a struggle. Sometimes they can overcome it. Like, look, the Cleveland Browns kind of got lucky that Ernest Johnson just turned out to be actually legitimately good, so that helps out. It helps out that their offensive line was healthy. Like with the Packers, they don't have any wide receiving options. I mean, MVS is out, Lazard is out, Devontae Adams is out. So you're down to Randall bleeping Cobb, that's it.
Malik Brown, Equinemius Brown, guys like that.
Yes.
Yeah, Tonyan is their best pass catching option tonight. Well, him and Jones. Aaron Jones should get a lot of targets because that's what they did in Week 4.
Yeah, he's lined up out wide before. I know he's able to run routes, and he's able to do that.
Yep, him and Jamal last season in the same scenario. Neither one of them saw 60% snap share, but they combined for they caught 13 of 13 targets for 140 yards and a touchdown between the two of them. And while I like AJ Dillon, he's not going to be out there running routes in the same way. So I see Jones getting out there.
No, but it might be one where, they're both probably going to have to be on the field at the same time. I imagine because the wide receiver room is going to be thin. I could kind of see Aaron Jones obviously not lining out wide the entire game, but they're going to have to use him in a way, and they've done it before. I know he's been able to go out wide and run routes. So it's very limited, but I'm sure they're going to have to do that a little bit more today, I imagine.
Yeah, and he has got good enough hands to be able to do that. He's probably going to get an uptick in his, obviously he's going to get uptick in his targets in the passing game. He might get a little bit of a downgrade in his carries just because of the way that they're going to utilize him today. But I mean, for PPR value, I would rather, take 4 or 5 less carries and get 4 or 5 more targets in the passing game.
Yes. Yeah.
It helps out more. So I'm a little nervous because, everybody in fantasy sports Twitter realizes this. So that always makes me nervous when everybody's talking up a guy that usually does not bode well just from a kind of a superstition standpoint, but he should have a fantastic day today.
Yeah. Is it leading to maybe, I guess the captain spot is the one that's going to be really interesting tonight because it's just limited options with the Packers. So pretty clear paths to, let's just say, Aaron Jones being able to get a ton of receiving yards, or maybe even leads to Robert Tonyan going into the captain spot. How is that working out for you? To me, it has to be a Packer. Because the Cardinals are really risky when it comes to captain because there are so many options.
Kyler.
And now, right, outside of Kyler. Yes, 100%. Outside of Kyler. Because now Zach Ertz gets into the fold and he already had a 47-yard touchdown for them. So he's already getting involved that early on in the offense, which means more mouths to feed. It's one where, yes, you're right, outside of Kyler Murray, I don't know if I want to take an Arizona Cardinal, and it might just end up being a Packer, most likely for me, and probably Aaron Jones.
It'll be a lot more Packers for me, but, Murray's obvious. If you want to run Murray, I would never tell you not to, but and I was a part of me is I'm actually a little more intrigued by Christian Kirk now that they're saying D-Hop will play, because the Packers have been bad against number ones, especially since Jair Alexander went down. It threw that whole defensive scheme off, and Green Bay has they have an inability to adjust at halftime to things that are working for the other teams. They just can't do it. It's not in their DNA. It never has been. I don't know why, but the Green Bay secondary is actually worse against RB2s than they are, or not RB2s, but wide receiver 2s than they are wide receiver 1s. They're like 28th in DVOA. They give up a lot of big passes. And in the event that Hopkins is out there, but he's kind of limited on his route tree, and he may be kind of serving a bit of a decoy role. He still gets used all the time. He's been hurt and he gets used, but it's just not the same volume. So it makes that Kirk captain spot in a couple of places really, really interesting to me.
Yeah, it does, which also brings me now, with the wide receiver situation, of course, crowded in Arizona, but also the running backs too. James Conner is priced up, almost 2K more than it's 1K, but like it's getting over 1K more than Chase Edmonds. Like that is a lot. And honestly, I'm kind of a big fan of Chase Edmonds in this game. I think it is going to have to be a little bit more pass heavy of an offense, and Chase Edmonds to me is the one that benefits off of that more than James Conner does, to be honest. And I just think he's a much more explosive back too.
Yeah, he is a lot more explosive. The only way that I would justify using Connor today is if you anticipate it getting out of control. And I think I think Green Bay can at least keep it close enough to where that scenario doesn't play out. So, gun to my head, you're forcing me to pick a running back on the Cardinals side. I would prefer Edmonds.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's Chase Edmonds kind of all the way here for me. I want to get James Conner involved. I know he gets the red zone carries, and I would say, look, if you expect it to be a little bit of a grinded out game, and this one's going to be really close, and the Cardinals have to, get into the red zone and get a little bit grimy in there, sure. But I just think this is going to be a little bit more, as you just said, the secondary for the Packers is more of a problem, I think, than anything else with Jair Alexander down. So this is more, you're trying to find the explosive plays from the Cardinals offense. And that's where I'm going to look for Chase Edmonds. That's where I'm going to look for guys like Christian Kirk. I think I agree with you. Christian Kirk is absolutely in play for this one. Because I'm expecting the down the field plays to kind of happen in this game.
Yeah, and he's second in the team in targets, but he's like third among wide receivers in snap share. It's if he sees 80%, 70 to 80% snap share instead of the 60% that he gets now, we're talking double-digit targets, and a lot of those targets are deep downfield. And Green Bay the last 4 weeks has been letting big play guys get behind them. We saw what happened with Jamar Chase right there at halftime a couple of weeks ago. That's the type of stuff they're doing all season now. They are in a bad spot all throughout that secondary.
Yeah, they are. So I guess the biggest question on this slate, like the biggest thing we're going to have to figure out is which one of these Packers receivers that we put in this showdown. And even like I don't know if I can recommend like captain spot for these guys, but you want to hit on these. You want to at least get these guys in your lineup and hit on one or two of them. Equimimia St. Brown, Rogers, Is it Mercedes Lewis even?
Don't
But
say.
no. But who is it to you? Is it St. Brown? Is it Rogers? Is it just getting a lot of Randall Cobb? How are you approaching the Packers wide receivers now that we know there's going to be 3 guys out of this game?
Yeah, I mean, Randall Cobb is probably going to see 80+% snap share this week, so he's firmly in play. Amari Rogers is also in play, and if you want to go after somebody that nobody is thinking about, that would be, the random day where Rogers hones in on some no name. Malik Taylor was activated off of the COVID list, and he is active for the game, and I believe he's the bare minimum price. I hate that we're going after these really super cheap guys this week, but I mean
we're forced to. It's just it's really is. We're forced to. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and the thing is, one of these guys are going to get the targets. And that's the thing. Like, it's such a coin flip of who actually gets it. But trust me, like, it's going to be, it's either going to be St. Brown. It's going to be Rogers. It's going to be Taylor. Like, one of these guys is going to get such an increase in target share and production that it's with that price point, it's you have to do it.
Yeah, and it's impossible to know which one's going to get it, because I can tell you, I mean, Equinemius St. Brown has gotten plenty of playing time over the last couple of seasons, and he's dropped a lot of passes. So I would not be surprised if St. Brown drops one early in the first quarter, and then Rogers,
and it's just on to the next guy.
Yeah, on to the next guy until he finds one that works.
Yep.
And that's exactly what he'll do. That's why in the same scenario, that's why Tanyan got all of those red zone looks and why you got all those touchdowns, because he caught 6 of 6 passes. Everything that got thrown to him, he caught. So he kept looking towards them. It's the same thing Rodgers did a couple years ago with Allen Lazard. They had a bunch of no names on the field, and they were trying to find something that worked. He honed in on Lazard one day, and he had a big week, and he won some people a lot of money. So it's just one of those scenarios, if you could run the same core of guys and then just change that final wide receiver for Green Bay to account for, run 3 different lineups exactly the same, but you switch that wide receiver in each one of those lineups. That would be something that you could do, because you shouldn't be building one showdown lineup. You should be building, 8, 9, 10 showdown lineups ideally, or more in these scenarios, just because the way the variance works out. It's an all or nothing approach.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm just throwing guys in here just again so everybody can see. Is it have to get 2 quarterbacks in? Is it easy to get these 2 quarterbacks in? You could throw in Tanyan and then get
you can fit. You got
2,200 right there.
Yeah, with the cheap wide receivers you can fit all the guys you want to get in there. It doesn't really matter. You would just have to kind of, with somebody like Kirk or somebody like Tanyan in up at the captain spot, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do with the rest of your build.
Yeah, look, again, there's not many chances to be different. The only way I can see you being different is some of the Cardinals pass catchers, and also with the Packers wide receivers. Other than that, I think Tanyan's going to be used a lot. Amari Rogers, obviously going to be used. Even Christian Kirk, I imagine, going to be used, as well as DeAndre Hopkins. But I guess where you can be, interchange Hopkins and Kirk a lot. I think even AJ Green, look, why not take a shot on him? It hasn't necessarily been great, but this could be the day, as you just said, number 2 wide receivers, where AJ Green finds himself in the end zone.
Yep. And he might find himself running more, number 1 type routes within those concepts to give Nook a little bit of a breather if he's hurting or he goes out to the sidelines, because he's going to have to take some plays off and go ahead and give himself a rest with that injury. So I think we'll see a decrease in his snap share, and somebody's got to fill in on those plays. They're not just, not going to run the plays because he's not out there. So somebody's going to pick those targets up.
Yeah, and look at the last 5 games for AJ Green. Like, it's certainly possible he gets close to 19, 17, 18. It's really, I think it's possible in this game that he gets close to those numbers. Again, going off of what you said, the fact that number 2 receivers do a lot against Green Bay. Kickers, how are you approaching kicker tonight?
I'm not using kickers in DFS at all.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I'm not touching it. You don't need to today. You have too much value within the position players. Somebody that is cheaper than a kicker is going to score more points than the kickers are tonight. That's just the way the flow of this game is going to work. So I'm not messing with the kickers. But
No, I'm not either. Yeah.
if you're dead set, no ifs, ands, or buts, and you're like, I have to use a kicker, go ahead and just go with Crosby and call it good.
That's it. Just Crosby, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, it has nothing to do with the fact that, those
no, it has to do with the fact
he's a good kicker, right?
Yeah, he's a good kicker, and of the random scenarios where a kicker is going to be getting a lot of work today, the only one that makes any sense is that Green Bay is going to have problems getting down the field in the red zone. They're going to have problems converting, and Crosby is going to kick some field goals. That's my mentality behind that.
Yeah, certainly is. This is this is a tough one. Oh, flowy hair. There we go. Oh, there it is. Beautiful.
Don't you worry. It's not going anywhere. See, if I cut it, I'm filming it.
Look, if Sia's in here and can talk about hair, I'm definitely going to need a play from Sia. And what is the dart throw wide receiver Sia is trying out today?
Yeah, please hook us up, because that's what we've been kind of mulling over here.
Right, so. Because the thing is, it's not even just because you got to get a $400 guy in, or you got to get a $600 guy in. The reason why you have to play these guys is because one of them is absolutely going to take these targets. There is somebody that has to play wide receiver for the Packers. Yeah. They are not. Oh, Sensina shot the link. Oh, whoa. Oh, all right, now we're talking. All right, hold on. I'll get the link here. So you know what, Stoweby, I'll ask you about, I don't know if you are a draft guy or not. Anything about Amari Rogers that you can tell us, because that's the one I think I'm more interested in. He can maybe have a fresh start here, if you know what I mean, or have a fresh perspective with Rogers. Like you said, St. Brown has been dealing with a little bit of the drop C's. So I imagine that Amari Rogers could have a chance here to maybe make an impact.
I think it's fair. It's the guys that have been on that, Rogers is clearly mad about his situation with the people that they have been drafting, like his skill players, and he voiced that in this offseason.
Aaron Rodgers, not Amari Rogers, who was upset with.
Yeah. I'm not talking about
the other A Rodgers.
Yeah. I'm talking. Well, that's my point, because Equanimeous, St. Brown, Alan Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling were on that roster. If he was happy with those guys, he would not be making those complaints. So the fact that you have Amari Rogers there now does lead me to think that he's going to give him some shots to potentially take over a number 2 or a number 3 role.
It forces them to probably use them when they didn't want to, I guess, necessarily. Or I know they're obviously drafting them in the 3rd round for a reason, but now it accelerates it in, okay, we have to play MVS and Alan Lazard because they're veterans. Now it's all right, let's just throw the rookie in there and see what he can do. Yeah. And I am if it so happens that Amari Rogers can play in this league, that the production's going to be there. Even if he turns out to be a 3rd, 4th wide receiver, that's fine, because he's going to get that kind of targets like a 2nd wide receiver, and there has to be some production within that. You know what I mean? I think Amari Rogers to me would be the better play. Obviously, it's the bleeping riskiest play that you can take. The only other one, I guess they won't want to run the ball or pass the ball as much. Not saying they want to take the ball out of Rogers' hands, but I would imagine that they want to keep this game a little bit more low scoring. They would want to keep the ball away from the Cardinals, to the point where maybe AJ Dillon does. We've seen him involved in the run game. It's Jones who gets more involved in the passing game, but maybe this is a little bit of a run heavy type of game. Not that again, they're going to take the ball out of Rodgers' hands, but it's more try and keep Kyler Murray off the field, and Rodgers has no problem running it.
They might balance it a little bit more. But when push comes to shove, Rodgers is the one making the final play in the huddle. So he's not going to care. Ultimately, he's not going to care what Lazard calls if he doesn't want to do it. And there's going to be a limit to how much he's going to let them take the air out of the ball. So he may get a few more carries just because it does make a lot of sense to control tempo. I just don't think they're going to go full blown, run it 40, 45 times in a game.
All right. Well, somebody who can help us out a little bit, who I see all over like CBS Sports and like Jonathan Coachman loves it, like just a bunch of stuff. He has the greatest hair in fantasy football. Actually, there's a little bit of competition on here for that, but it's Sia Nejad. Hello, Sia Nejad. How are you?
Yeah, there's a little bit of competition for that because David's hair, that's the type of hair I dream of. It's amazing.
Oh man, look, there's one thing that I'm learning is there is way too much gray mixed in here now. When it's grown out, I can see it a lot more. I'm getting up there. I'm getting close to 40.
Sia Nejad's hair is going to be jet black his entire. It's just
David.
gorgeous.
David, there's stuff you can do for that if you want to take the time.
Don't. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready.
No, you live in North Carolina. Just inbox Coach Krzyzewski and see what he does for his hair. You can see.
He's going to be retiring. So maybe he'll be doing like a speaking tour.
How many like Men for Black or whatever it's called, like hair dye commercials is Krzyzewski going to do in his off time? Like I just imagine that's just going to be his day job. But Sia Nejad, we have you on here because we have a bit of a conundrum. What the bleep do we do with the Packers wide receivers? Like what the bleep are we doing today?
Yeah, I mean, Randall Cobb is
where you have to put him in, like somebody like St. Brown or Rogers. Like
if you're talking about the lower end guys, I definitely, man, it's not exactly an embarrassment of riches, but it's probably Equanimeous St. Brown is probably the guy I'd be going with. I mean, I know on the Packers side, obviously I'm playing a lot of Aaron Jones and Randall Cobb.
Yep.
But outside of that, if I had, going to that third tier or that second tier, it's probably Brown for me.
Yeah. Is it where you're dart throwing at least one of those guys in your lineup, or are you trying to stay away from that as much as possible? I guess I asked that because where do we see those? Because it's not just the target share of Adams, and obviously it's not target share of anyone because nobody replaces Adams, but just how are they going to spread around, let's just say 30 pass attempts to these wide receivers? Somebody has to be getting it. It's not just all Cobb. Like who gets that, I guess.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, it is going to be spread out quite a bit, probably. Once you get past Aaron Jones, I think it's almost one of those things. How much value are you? I mean, you're really having to take a shot. I know, like for me, I do single entry, so I'm not doing the 150 max where I'm doing big percentages or small percentages of St. Brown and Amari Rogers and that kind of thing. I captained Aaron Jones, in the ones I've built so far, and Cobb has been the second one in. And then it's like, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to play some AJ Dillon because I think they're just going to sort of reduce their passing attempts so much and just try to keep the game in front of them, keep Kyler Murray off the field with his bevy of receivers and pass catchers. So I'm playing a little bit of AJ Dillon. I'm playing a lot of Randall Cobb, a little bit of Equanimeous St. Brown. And then sometimes I'm just taking out the receiver. Like I know a lineup, I'll take out the receivers altogether outside of Cobb and Aaron Jones, and I'll put in Aaron Rodgers in there. But I mean, go ahead.
And so no, it's a lot of like Packer stuff too, but the Cardinals, we also expect to put up some points here. This has been the best offensive football. Like how difficult is it knowing that, okay, we do have a clear path for some of those Packers wide receivers and are a little bit less expensive than the Cardinals, and balancing that out with, well, who do I also pick within the Cardinals that there's just so many guys that they have. The complete opposite problem of the Packers. Packers don't have enough. The Cardinals have way too much. Like how do we balance that together with what we're getting with the Packers? It's tough. Yeah. It's truly tough.
For me, the target share is so spread out. Now you add Ertz to the target distribution, and Chase Edmonds catches plenty of passes. I'm actually going to play a little bit more Chase Edmonds, I think, tonight than most people. I'm not going to ignore James Conner, but I think Chase Edmonds is going to get the leg up on him for a couple of obvious reasons. I think he will be catching the ball a little bit, and he's looked pretty explosive outside of red zone opportunities. He's looked like a pretty good running back.
That's fair. I think that's kind of along the lines of what me and you were talking about. It's the explosive opportunities are going to be more available for somebody like Edmonds over somebody like Connor. So, and when we get down to the red zone, the fact that Murray is always there to kind of take a little bit of that touchdown equity away from somebody like Connor always sits in the back of my head too.
Yeah. Do you guys think, I have a question, because Kyler hasn't been rushing, he hasn't been rushing much the last few games. Is there an injury that you think he's nursing and that's the reason, or is it just because the lack of need to rush because they've been kind of up and they've got all these pass catchers?
He was dealing with a couple of little nicked up injuries. I know he got dinged up last week, but he got dinged up on a run. So it was a little, I think it has a little bit to do with both. He is nursing a couple of small injuries, and they're trying to kind of keep that from becoming a bigger problem down the stretch. But they've also been in situations where they've been kind of comfortable with where they're at in the game to where they don't feel like they need to.
Well, yeah, I also think Kyler's just become a better passer too. Like it's just it's almost like, I know Lamar Jackson's still getting rushing yards, but even this season, like Lamar Jackson becomes such a good passer. I don't think we're getting those huge rushing days like we were from Lamar Jackson even a couple of years ago, where he was just running all the time. Like I just think it's not a necessity anymore because he's just so good at throwing the ball. The passing offense has been so good. That I think it's just become less of a necessity for this offense.
And she's right. He did have a little bit of a shoulder thing. Now, like from a few weeks ago, I do remember that being a thing, and that might have something to do with it.
And that's what he had last year. He had a shoulder thing, and that was the part of the season where Kyler just wasn't putting up the fantasy points. So I think you guys are right. He might just sit back there and like, there's no Jair Alexander. The rest of their defensive backs are just kind of garbage. You guys probably talked about it on the front end of the show. I'm curious, have you zeroed in already on the Arizona pass catchers?
I like Christian Kirk. He's my favorite one today, just because I think that they're going to take some plays off, or where Nook is going to take some plays off, just dealing with that injury, maybe see a reduced snap share. And a lot of the premium routes are going to be getting downfield are going to be going to Kirk over Hopkins this week.
Mm-hmm. I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, I do like Christian Kirk a lot. Here's a good question, and here's kind of the question I've been kind of juggling with all day. Would you play Jones and Dillon in the same lineup? I do think those guys have to coexist on the field together in a game like this, but is it enough to want to get them in your lineups together?
I mean, I have him in the same lineup. I'm looking at a lineup that I did right now. I don't love it. I don't love AJ Dillon, but I do love what his salary does for me. So it's one of those things, and I'm looking at Draftkings, not Fanduel. But for me, he allows me to do so much on the Arizona side. So I'm just kind of taking the leap of faith that, well, maybe he gets a handful of goal line carries. Maybe he just gets some work. I mean, they're not going to give Aaron Jones like the Derrick Henry treatment or Dalvin Cook treatment with 30 plus carries or anything like that. So I think there's definitely a role for Dillon, especially if you're curtailing the passing offense. You almost have to, right? And which is why I don't know how big I am on Rodgers tonight.
That's a good question.
I don't necessarily mind Rodgers, because this, like, we were talking earlier in the show. He had the same scenario against the Falcons last season, and they ran a lot of Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones at the same time, running routes out of the backfield. And then Rodgers ended up throwing for 327 yards and 4 touchdowns, with 3 of them to Robert Tonyan. So it's not to say that he can't do it. I know that this isn't the Falcons defense, and the Cardinals are better, but I'm not completely terrified of it.
Yeah, it also could just be what the Cardinals kind of force them to do. Like, this could be one where the Cardinals jump out to a lead. Obviously, their offense is so good that it is maybe forcing the Packers to do something they don't, in throwing Aaron Rodgers a lot with the absolute garbage pile of wide receivers that he has to deal with. So now I'm really interested, though. What about the spread? I know we've seen this one go up, and now even more wide receivers are out. I think we're close to a touchdown that the Cardinals are favored by. This opened up as a 3.5 point spread, and it's now all the way up. I'm really interested. Anybody want to take the Green Bay Packers today? Anybody?
Well, I'll jump in here, because one thing for those of the casual bettors out there, when you see a line and you're like, oh, well, that's easy, you're wrong. Like, you're going to be wrong 60 to 70% of the time. And so when you look at this line and you're like, well, Arizona has pretty much all their resources. A couple, JJ Watt is out. There's a couple things. Hopkins is obviously nursing some sort of injury. But the Packers, they have plenty of injuries. It's not just Devontae Adams. The back end of their defense is injured. I think you guys might have addressed this. Somebody, Zachariah Smith, or I'm getting his name wrong, but somebody on their defensive line, I think, is out. So they've got a handful of injuries, but they're still a really good team. And I'm not 100% sure Arizona is this dominant team that their record is reflecting right now. I mean, there's going to be some probably regression there. If Kyler Murray is nursing some sort of injury and wants to limit himself running, well, then that offense isn't nearly as dynamic. So let's put it this way. This line jumped up to 6.5, which is almost like begging you to take Arizona because it's under what people perceive to be a key number at 7. But there's been buyback. It's down to 6 now, which means probably some good money, probably some sharp money was like, okay, this is pretty high here. So let's hammer the Packers real quick. So now it's down to 6. That tells you that like there's some back and forth on both sides. And my guess is there's some sharp money on both sides at 6. I mean, honestly, it might be a stay away for me. It's a cop-out answer or a live bet opportunity just to see how the Packers offense looks through 1 or 2 series, and then maybe hammer what I like there. But if I had to take it, I'm not taking the square play, which is Arizona. Here's what I'll say: if I'm not sure, I'm taking what I perceive to be the opposite of the square play. If I like the square play for a lot of reasons, I'll go ahead and take the square play. That's fine. But if I'm not sure, then I'm going on the other side of it because this looks like they want you to take Arizona.
Yeah, I also, in a situation like this, I would rather just get the points in a game that I still think they're 2 really good teams. And now you're inflating this number because of people being, and obviously, look, almost an entire position group is wiped out for the Packers. So that is a problem. But let's be honest, this is still a playoff team. There's still a coach that has done excellent with his time in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is still an amazing quarterback. And this defense has problems for sure, but I actually think we're starting to see them play well. Like we've been talking about this defense as if they're not really that good. They held Cincinnati to 22 points. They held Washington to under 20. You know, this is still a defense that has been playing well. I think this is just a close game. And, you know, that 6 number could lose, but I think that's going to be lost either late in the game or lost by something, you know, bad beatish kind of thing. But I don't see this being a clear blowout by Arizona or they win this game by multiple touchdowns. The Packers know at this point how to manage a game, and especially how to manage a game like this. Like I think they'll be fine doing that, to be honest with you. And I do think there's a little bit of inflation on just the Arizona Cardinals price because they are just not, I don't think, as good as what the record indicates. I truly don't.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, they're not. They're going to come back down to earth. We will see some regression there.
Yes, I absolutely do. All right, guys, that was great. That was for a
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just so you guys know, so I was all set up. I had done another show earlier, and I was all set up, and I'm like, I hope these guys are still on. And it wasn't to jump on; it was just to catch your show. Like like because of like when football season happens, like I get a little bit busier, but I am always trying to catch your show. And so I was like, oh, sweet. I just went right to YouTube. The Win Daily Sports thing popped up. It said
so easy,
live. It's so freaking easy. And so I jumped in there, and then I wasn't going to ask to come on to your show, but I was like, well, you brought up my comment. I'm like, hey, I'll jump. I'll talk about that, the receivers that, so I'm always happy to jump on with you guys.
Yeah, definitely, man. We appreciate having you here. So I'll never turn it down.
As
just
always,
let me know next time. I'll get my button up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just 2 rules, if you don't mind, the button up shirt. And if you would, I understand the headphones probably limit the ability to have the hair flowing like the hunk hair, but it would be swell if you could just have that maybe just coming down like to your shoulders somehow. Or
it's funny you say that.
You got to be flipping it. You got to be flipping it around, messing with it during the show. Absolutely.
I've got some earbuds on the way. So I'm already remedying that problem. I've already got them on the way.
Oh, lovely. I can't wait to see that luscious hair just flowing around.
Right.
I know we went from this show with just great hair to me and Ghost always on the NBA stream with backward hats on, completely hiding our hair. So it's good to have a little bit of a difference there. But that is it for us here at WinDailySports.com. This is all sponsored, of course, by the Sharp app. Go to sharp.link and you can download it via the Google Play Store, Apple App Store. All of those options will be available to you. Just sharp.link. And also all the bets free today. They usually have a free bet of the day. Ooh. All of them, they said, are available for today. So why not jump on that? Why not get them? Sharp.link. Also, we still have a 1-week free trial. So if you need the optimizer tonight, you need it for Sunday, you need it for PGA, which Sia does. You need it for NBA. All of it's available to you. WDS.1/live week. That'll get you to the 1-week free trial. Also, link for that in the description below. That is it for us. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going over a position by position preview with myself and Jason. That'll be tomorrow right here, Win Daily